Hey there, Abiding fam, and welcome back to my channel. As you could tell from the title of this video, we are going to be flipping through my 2019 bullet journal. I always enjoy flipping through my bullet journal at the end of the year, not only to reminisce and look at my memories and all that happened in the year, but also to look back on how far I've grown, both in my artistic ability and just in my skills and my creativity. And a big part of that this year was thanks to Skillshare, so I want to give them a shout out because they are sponsoring this video, but they also kind of just sponsored a lot of my creativity throughout the entire year of 2019, and I've developed a lot of skills because of courses on Skillshare, which I'll talk about more later in the video, but I wanted to shout it out now. And of course, if you guys want to be learning some new skills in the new year, they are linked down below so that you can get 2 months for free to start learning some creative skills for yourself. One of those creative skills was doodling. So my 2019 cover page here, I actually did a series of doodles going around in a circle through the seasons. So there are winter doodles, spring doodles, summer doodles, and then more fall-like doodles that just go around in this circle, bringing the year to a close, which I thought was a really fun way to symbolize it. And I actually made this a free printable on my Patreon for anyone who wanted to get it. Here is my year at a glance. I honestly never, ever, ever really look at this spread. And I actually had planned on creating the second half of the year on these pages, and then as you can see, that never happened, and I just ended up leaving it blank. So the year at a glance doesn't really work for me. Sometimes it's nice just to get down those things so that I get them out of my head and onto paper, but I don't use it the way I should. I don't look back at it each month to grab things from this and migrate them to my month. So that's something to definitely work on or figure out a better system for. Here are my 2019 goals. I honestly haven't yet gone back and reflected on these. I know that some I hit, and I know that some I didn't, and that this was just kind of an odd year with a lot of curveballs thrown into it. And so I'm not too hard on myself when it comes to these goals. And as you guys saw in my August plan with me, which I'll talk about a little bit later as we flip through, I've kind of changed my attitude towards goals and made it more about who am I becoming? So that actually fits really well into this spread, which was a tracker looking at becoming the best version of myself within these areas. And I kind of just tracked it by quarters. So in the first quarter, you can see where I was on each of these areas within health, faith, relationships, finances, career, self-care, development, and marriage. And then I just kind of arbitrarily rated myself each quarter on how well I felt I was doing and whether I had grown in that area or regressed in that area. And I did really like this idea. I think my problem with a tracker like this is that it gives you the false idea that you can reach perfection, right? That you can reach a top 10 in all of these areas, and that just simply is not true. If you've ever considered doing a level 10 life sort of tracker, I just want you to know that that's false. There is no level 10. You are not reaching level 10 in every area of your life, and that is the purpose of life. It just simply isn't. And so that is my problem with this type of tracker. I think it's good to look at growth and progress, which I will talk about in my 2020 plan with me. But I think this sort of way of tracking that progress gives you the false belief that you can reach perfect. So I haven't filled out quarter 4 yet. I'm not sure that I will, honestly, because of everything I just said, but I can guarantee you that not a single one of these areas has been or will be a 10 for me in 2019. An area of growth that I always like to track is my reading. Reading is so important to me, and this year so far I've read 24 books. I'm currently finishing up The Glory Has Come, which is an Advent devotional book that I'm reading, and I hope to read one more book so that I can hit a very nice 25 books for the year. I absolutely adore this way of visualizing my book tracker. I love printing out the little photos and having them all and then organizing them on this little bookshelf as I read them. I think it is such a precious way of keeping track of your reading, and there's just something about seeing the actual cover. It's like having the real bookshelf, and so I just love that, and I'm definitely going to be doing a version of this in 2020 with the book covers. Here is a simple spread of the movies that we went to see in theaters this year, and hopefully we can see even more in 2020. And then this spread here is a look at all of the places we went to in 2019. The best destination and the highlight of the year was going to St. Lucia for our honeymoon. Here is just YouTube ideas and then tracking my YouTube and Patreon income, which I honestly just kind of stopped doing. This was a spread that I made for some kind of tutorial video. I honestly don't even remember what. And then we have this blank before I get into my monthlies and weeklies. So here we have January. I love this January spread so much, and you guys did too, because this video absolutely blew up for me. It had like 40,000 views, which is a lot more than my plan with me's typically get. So I was really happy with the way that this one turned out, and I had a lot of fun actually using these spreads. I actually used them the way that you should be using a bullet journal, and so I started out really well in the new year with my bullet journaling, but as you're gonna see, it definitely teeters off. This was just me trying to figure out the dinner menu for our rehearsal dinner for the wedding, so just quick notes. This one was notes that I took on 5 golden rules for a calm dog from some videos I was watching trying to figure out how to tame my mutt, who is a Australian cattle dog and beagle mix and has more energy than I know what to do with. So I thought this was very helpful to take notes on. This was a really fun plan with me that I did for a weekly spread where I had the gratitude log here in the middle using the shooting star. I thought that turned out really neat. And then one thing I started doing in the new year that I really liked but then teetered off towards the end of this year was doing a month in review where I looked at achievements, books read, I was tracking things with my Fitbit like steps taken, and then I looked at lessons learned, memories made, movies watched, and things to improve. So that was a fun thing to do, which might be something I want to bring back in the new year. Here we had February, not one of my favorites, but here we are. So I really didn't use that spread very much. I had my habits, a workout tracker that I clearly did not really fill in very much. This was a fun little weekly spread using the house roof as the weekly columns and then the windows for doing meal planning. These are really fun stickers that I actually sent to my patrons on the Happy Mail tier that month. So those are really cute coffee themed stickers. And then here is my February in review. Here is my March spread, which I loved this butterfly wing. I thought this was so fun and creative and just a neat thing to do. So I really liked playing with that. And I put my goals underneath it, and then I had my calendar, which I really liked the layout of this. I like when you don't close off the calendar. There's something about that aesthetic that looks cleaner to me. And then I was just using some of the printables from my Patreon. So these are available on both the $2 and the $6 tier. You get a little bit less on the $2 tier because it's a mini printable. It's just about this big, 4x6, but you get a full sheet of printables on the $6 tier. This was a fun workout tracker where I filled in the little parts of the butterfly whenever I worked out. My March in review, and then we get into April. I did a different calendar layout for this month. I drew this little bunny, which was just so darling, in the umbrella. I did a lot of working out in April, getting ready for the wedding. And then, of course, some wedding planning over here, bridesmaids gifts, figuring out vacation days. Did some meal planning over here. And that finishes this bullet journal. And then I moved into this little baby here. Before I jump into the rest of my bullet journal that's tucked away in this little mini bullet journal, which I loved creating with you throughout this entire year, I want to tell you a little bit more about Skillshare. So you guys know that Skillshare has been a big supporter of my channel this year, and I've learned so much through their online courses. There's a reason I talk about exploring your abiding creativity here on my channel, and that's because for me, creativity is a journey. It is an act you have to explore and develop, because even though I believe we all are born with the God-given ability to create and we are meant to do that, it does come with practice. So that's where a great resource like Skillshare comes in, because you can learn from those that have already started this journey and who are doing beautiful work within their specific skill sets, and you can learn from the best. So when I go to Skillshare, I can pick any single topic, whether that's watercolor or gouache or how to create better YouTube videos, and I can type that into the search bar and find tons of courses from those who are already mastering those skills. And that is a huge asset to me as I begin exploring my own abiding creativity within those skills. So most recently, you guys saw in my December plan with me that I've been experimenting with gouache, and that has been such a fun process, learning from those who really know what they're talking about over on Skillshare. And what I love about Skillshare is that it really focuses on the community aspect of learning. And so you get to engage with others who are taking the course and learn from them as well and share your projects. It's just a really great atmosphere to be in as you're developing your skills. So if you're interested in checking that out, especially in the new year during a time when we're all setting goals for skills we want to be developing and how we want to be growing ourselves in the new year, it's the perfect time to check out Skillshare and maybe give yourself a little gift. And for the first 2 months, you can give that gift to yourself completely free by using the link down below. Let me and the rest of our abiding fam here know down in the comments what skill you hope to develop in 2020. Alright fam, so with that said, you guys know that I was developing a lot of new skills here in my little mini bullet journal. I really enjoyed using this, but I actually didn't really use the first few pages like I thought I was going to. I had set them aside with the intention of migrating some of my pages over from my other bullet journal, but then never did. I honestly, at this point, leading up to the wedding and then right after the wedding and up until really right now, I feel like I've not been in a good rhythm with my bullet journal at all, which you're definitely going to see. So yeah, I left some of these pages blank. I actually put in there, which I'm going to quick flip by, some notes on my third novel and just trying to figure out plot points for it. And then I created this writing log I thought I was going to use and then clearly did not. And then I just started going right back into doing my monthlies. So we have May here, which was my wedding month. So I did lavender theme for that with some lavender printables and then doodles because that was our theme for the wedding. I did actually work out in May, but did not bother to actually track it in my bullet journal, which has been the problem. I do things, but I haven't been tracking them. I haven't been writing down my to-do list very well in my journal, and part of that is because if I don't already have it set up at the beginning of the month, I basically can't be bothered to set it up later. And so that is why you're going to see later in 2020, I'm going to be switching things up because I really need my bullet journal to be more functional and for me to be using it. I really liked putting the days of the week at the bottom here. I thought that was just a fun little change to the calendar layout. And this was one of my favorite pages, honestly, in this little bullet journal. is just June highlights, where I went around and just did fun fonts and doodles capturing major highlights from the month. Things like sunny weather and evening walks, turning our apartment into a home, game night at a friend's house, going on our first vacation together, just us. So just real little highlights from the month was just a special thing to capture. So I highly recommend doing a page like this in 2020. I've put a grocery list at the bottom here and it got way too cramped. And then here I just was making lists the way that bullet journals should be, where you're just writing down the list of things that need to get done and not caring about what it looks like. So I wrote down a grocery list here and then figured out what those meals would actually look like in this little box, and then figured out what I need to buy, what I need to do, where I need to go. So there was just a lot that I needed to get done in those days after the wedding. And so that is what those lists were. And then here we get into July, which I did a St. Lucia Island theme because this was our honeymoon month. So I really, really loved this cover page so much. It's definitely one of my favorites. We have goals, a little calendar. Here are some spreads from a video I did on travel spreads for your bullet journal. So if you're going on a trip, what kind of spreads are great to make. So I'll have that linked for you guys if you want to check that out. I'll actually link the whole playlist of bullet journaling for beginners because that's where I keep all of those types of videos here on my channel. So you can check that out. I created a place to write down honeymoon memories, and then sadly, I never did. I never went through and filled it out. And then we get into my July in review and my August, which this was one of my favorite videos in terms of the content and what I was saying and filming. So if you're going to go back and watch a video from this year, I really do recommend the August one. This is where I was talking about just having a new kind of outlook on my year because I had been getting down on myself about everything that I wasn't getting done. And so I started focusing on who I am becoming when looking at goals and who I am forming myself into, and then also focusing on this idea of a telos, which is an ultimate end or aim. So focusing on small victories to who it is you ultimately want to be. And I talk about that a lot more in that video. And then this spread is one I want to recreate in my growth book that is looking at what is not God's design. So all of these things that we kind of let seep into our thought life, like burnout and comparison and fear and the idea of perfection or having it all of those ideas are not God's design. And so this page was my way of putting that down on paper. And then over here, I just captured some scripture that talked about what God's perfect design actually looks like. So those are things I want to transfer over to my growth book, which is where I'm going to be doing more of my spiritual and faith bullet journaling type method. That's where I'm going to be doing all of that. And then here I have a weekly spread, one of my favorites, using this Allie Brown printable that I then colored. This was a super helpful video tracker, so I definitely want to recreate a tracker like this in the new year for my video filming and editing and publishing and all that. There's so much that goes into creating these videos, and I think a lot of people don't even realize all that goes into it, and it is a lot. Honestly, there's a reason that a lot of people quit their full-time jobs and become YouTubers full-time, because it really is a full-time job. And I have to say, it's a struggle for me to balance it sometimes on top of what is actually my full-time job. Here's a weekly. Here's a weekly I never bothered to fill out. And then we get into August in review, and then September, when I did a carousel vintage carnival theme. So all of these printables are also available on my Patreon. This was a really fun tracker to do, and that I actually did fill out, where I would draw a colored line down over each of the days that I actually did that activity. And it actually, in this case, was once again not an activity, but looking at who I am becoming. So it says I'm on track to be a great writer, a strong believer, a creative. And so anytime I did anything on that day that got me closer to one of those things, I colored in the little track bar that holds up the roller coaster that you have here. Here I did some dailies. And I think this is what I'm going to be doing more of in the new year, is some dailies where I just have one page devoted to my whole day of planning. And that you'll understand more when you see what I'm doing in 2020, because I'm not going to be using a bullet journal like this in 2020. So if you've made it this far in this video and are now aware that I'm not going to be using an actual bullet journal in 2020, leave a comment with your guess of what system you think I'm going to be using in 2020. I'll still be using, don't get me wrong, don't like unsubscribe from this channel thinking I'm abandoning bullet journaling. I'm still going to be using the bullet journal method. I'm just not going to be using it in a full blank bullet journal like this. This October spreads and these printables that I created for my patrons and that are still available over there, because when you join Patreon you get access to all of the backlogged content, which means like 40 plus printables. So there's so many over there, as well as like 25 plus videos. There's a ton of content over there for you guys, and it's a great way to support my channel. So if you like the printables that you've seen throughout this flip through, all of these basically are printables. Be sure to go and check out Patreon. I'll have it linked. But this was a really fun, cozy, homey vibe setup, and I did this cool little Dutch door thing with the weeklies where it kind of has this waterfall effect where it gets bigger until you get to the very end. I had this fall TBR, and I only read 2 of these books thus far on my fall TBR list, so that kind of tells you how my reading's been going. This was a fun tracker, keeping track of my writing, and then I just used the foil quill pen to add all of these foil accents throughout all of these spreads. And then we get into November, which this is really, I think, the style that I'm aiming for in my bullet journal. I feel like this best captures my style because it best imitates what I do in my creative journal. So that's what this is, my creative journal. I have all of the flip throughs for this here on my channel too, if you want to see what my memory keeping journaling looks like. I really loved these pages because it was such a fun use of stickers and washi in a way that I do in my creative journaling, but still with some doodling as well. So like these branches I doodled myself, and then here I did the hand lettering, but it's a good mix, I think, of the two. And so I loved these spreads, but I obviously did not really use them. November was a really hard month for me. I had a lot going on at work, and so it just felt like a month where I got totally derailed in my personal life. So yeah, a lot of these did not end up getting filled in. I did not hit the goals that I wanted to in November, and I just kind of had to accept that and move on. So that wraps up November, and then we see December, guys, where once again you're seeing that I'm not really filling things out, which is why I am trying to think of a new approach to the bullet journal method and my way of doing journaling that is going to work better for me so that I can actually get things done and make this functional. So here we are in December. I did do a good job with using these spreads for gift ideas, so things that I knew that I wanted to get, and then ideas for other people's gifts. I started filling out this tracker, which I talk about in that video. I have a little bucket list for Christmas time. And then here is the one weekly spread I created for the month, and I obviously didn't really fully use it, just a little bit. And then I have a list of end of year videos I want to make for you guys here on YouTube, and that finishes this bullet journal. So that's kind of the last thing I have in here. So yeah, there were a lot of little hints in there, guys, that I'm going to be changing things up in 2020. So if you made it all the way to the end of this video, let me know down in the comments what system you are going to be using in 2020. What about bullet journaling works for you? And what areas do you struggle with bullet journaling that don't really work for you? And then also let me know if you have seen all of my plan with me's, and obviously you've seen every month captured here in this flip through. Let me know which theme was your favorite from the entire year. I would love to know that down in the comments. It has been such a fun journey in 2019 documenting an entire year of bullet journaling with you guys. I hope that you've enjoyed it if you've been here. If you haven't and this is your first time checking us out, make sure that you hit that subscribe button and join the Abiding fam. So thank you guys so much for watching. I hope that you will keep exploring your abiding creativity into the new year. A great way to do that, as I said, is by checking out Skillshare. Remember, you can get your first 2 months completely free at the link below, so make sure that you check it out. There are so many courses on so many different things. I have it linked down below for you. And of course, guys, as always, the main goal is to document a life full of abiding joy, hope, and love. And so that I hope you do that, and I hope you do it well. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in my next video.